This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, sci-fi film called Aniara. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. As the Earth slowly dies from climate change, people have begun migrating to Mars via a large passenger ship called the Aniara. One of the passengers in Aniara's latest journey is the MIMA, an employee operating the MIMA, an artificial intelligence virtual reality system that allows people to experience their memories of Earth's environment before its destruction. Before opening the MIMA hall to passengers, the MIMA uses the system to visit a waterfall and taste the fruits that grow in the environment. Apart from the MIMA, the ship also has 21 restaurants and a few other luxuries, such as a tanning salon and a spa to keep the passengers comfortable throughout their 3-week journey. When the MIMA goes to her room, she learns that she's been assigned to bunk with the astronomer, who complains that she still has to share a room even after serving the company her whole life. As the two go to sleep, the MIMA notes that she might snore, so the astronomer jokes that she'll have to change cabins on the way back. The following day, the MIMA starts inviting passengers to try MIMA, but only a few are interested. After a brief introduction to the system, she takes 5 people into the MIMA hall and gives them instructions on how to start experiencing Earth's lush and diverse environment. Suddenly, the flight experiences turbulence as the ship tries to avoid hitting space debris. The pilots are able to stabilize the ship in a few moments, but they soon discover that they have deviated from their course. Isagel, one of the pilots, attempts to return the ship to its original course, but the system warns him that the engine's power has failed and that there's an imminent meltdown. To avoid a total disaster, they decide to eject the ship's nuclear fuel. And when they ask Isagel about the ship's trajectory, she discloses that they're heading towards the Lyra constellation. A while later, Captain Chiffon announces that the ship's reactor was damaged while avoiding space debris. He then reveals that the ship is knocked off its course, and they no longer have enough energy to steer the ship because they ejected the nuclear fuel when the power station caught fire. He assures them that the ship will be able to turn around and get back to its course when they encounter a celestial body that will pull them into its orbit, but he notes that they'll have to wait around 2 years before that happens. A passenger named Libidel gets worried because she promised her son that she'd be there on Mars on his 4th birthday. As she gets hysterical, the MIMA brings her to the MIMA hall with the help of another passenger named Chababa. Before long, Libidel calms down as the machine fills her mind with images of Earth. Chiffon soon asks the ship's key personnel to boost the algae production to increase their food supply. The man overseeing the ship's restaurants notes that they'll start noticing the changes in their food supply within 2 months, but they can survive on algae. That night, the astronomer asks the MIMA how she's handling the news. The MIMA notes that she's not worried because she doesn't have anyone waiting for her on Mars or Earth. The astronomer reveals that her situation is not so different because she's separated after 31 years of marriage. After 3 weeks, more and more people are interested in trying the MIMA. The MIMA informs the people in charge that she needs assistance to handle the influx of people who want to use the system. One night, the MIMA asks the astronomer how long until the ship finds a celestial body. The astronomer then hints that they won't live long enough to see another celestial body, and the pilots know it. Instead of going directly to sleep that night, the MIMA goes out for a drink. She starts having a panic attack while staring at the emptiness of space, so she immediately runs to the MIMA hall. The MIMA uses the system and takes a tranquil walk around a forest to keep herself calm. The following day, a man has a panic attack after a woman at the planetarium tells him that the ship won't be able to return to its original course. The MIMA advises the man to go to the MIMA hall to alleviate his fears of not being able to reach Mars. The man is reluctant, so the MIMA tells him that they might as well try to survive on the ship because life on Mars is not much better. Before long, the MIMA and an officer bring the man to the MIMA hall to soothe his mind and avoid scaring other passengers. The MIMA soon speaks directly to Chiffon to ask for assistance. She hints that people will freak out once they find that they're wandering aimlessly in space. Chiffon promises to assign 8 people to the MIMA hall and notes that he'll tell people about the situation when the passengers get used to eating algae. After 3 years, the MIMA starts spending time at the nightclub to keep her mind off their bleak situation. One night, she hooks up with a man named Daisy. While making out with him in public, she notices Isagel passing by, so she stops for a moment. The MIMA makes love with Daisy later that night, but she leaves without letting him finish. To keep up with the demand for food, the authorities offer larger credits to people volunteering to work at the algae plants. People start to notice a stench in their drinking water, so Chiffon notes that they also need more workers at the water purification plant. The MIMA becomes more in demand since the passengers have not seen land in 3 years. The MIMA allows Isagel to use the system after operating hours, so she doesn't have to wait in line with the crowd. After her session, the MIMA explains that she didn't have feelings for the man that she was kissing the other night. She gets frustrated when Isagel leaves the hall without reacting to what she said. Later, the astronomer tells the MIMA that Isagel's reaction was normal because pilots are experts at suppressing their emotions. One morning, the MIMA uses the MIMA to relax and swim at a lake, but her experience immediately becomes a nightmare when birds start falling out of the sky. While passengers use the system that same day, the MIMA gets alarmed when MIMA suddenly utters a few nonsensical phrases. One of the patrons starts groaning as the system flashes images of a forest fire in his mind, so the MIMA immediately takes him out of the hall. After checking the condition of other patrons, the MIMA decides to shut down the system. Later, Chiffon scolds the MIMA for shutting down MIMA, so she explains that the system needs to rest. She worries that MIMA's use of human speech is a sign that it's getting exhausted from going through the memories of every patron. The MIMA asks Chiffon for permission to close the MIMA hall for a week because people are starting to see awful things, but Chiffon refuses. When MIMA goes back online, she speaks again and notes that she's troubled by the painful memories that she's seen. She stresses that she will no longer display her images because she wants peace. As MIMA starts hinting that she'll blow herself up, the MIMA tries stopping people from entering the hall, but nobody pays attention to her. Not long after, MIMA self-destructs while people are inside. The next day, the passengers build a memorial for MIMA outside the hall. Libidel tells other passengers that the MIMA has been keeping MIMA all to herself each night before it was destroyed. Chiffon intends to punish the MIMA because some have claimed that she sabotaged MIMA, so Isagel defends her and stresses that it's not her fault. When Chiffon refuses to listen to her, Isagel punches him in the gut. The MIMA attempts to evade the officers trying to catch her, but she eventually decides to surrender. As a consequence of assaulting Chiffon, Isagel gets beaten and locked up with MIMA. A year later, passengers yearning to see natural light again form a cult at the MIMA hall. Meanwhile, numerous passengers who have given up hope and taken their own life. In 1 month, the authorities have found 48 people who have killed themselves. Due to the staff shortage, the authorities decide to put people with criminal offenses to work instead of incarcerating them. Isagel is assigned to take care of the algae, while the MIMA teaches children. By then, the MIMA and Isagel have become lovers, so they're assigned to live in a room together. When the couple spends some time at the sauna, Chibaba, a member of Libidel's cult, asks him to attend a ceremony to canonize MIMA. The MIMA worries that they might sacrifice her for killing MIMA, so Chibaba assures her that the cult has since realized that MIMA killed herself because of grief. Soon, the MIMA and Isagel join the cult in the MIMA hall to attend the ceremony. After a prayer to MIMA, the cult members start stripping off their clothes, so the MIMA and Isagel do the same. As Libidel lies on the ground, a man enters the hall and copulates with her. Other members of the group soon join in. Isagel reluctantly copulates with a man, while the MIMA makes love to other women. A few months pass, and Isagel gets pregnant. She feels hopeless because the child would live like a prisoner in the ship and will never see daylight. The MIMA then promises her that she'll do everything that she can to get rid of the darkness. Later, the MIMA approaches Chiffon to ask permission to build a beam screen that will display soothing images outside their windows. However, Chiffon tells her that she can't build new inventions because she needs to keep teaching the future generations to keep the ship functional. Soon, Isagel reluctantly gives birth to a baby boy. While she's bathing the baby in the swimming pool one day, an officer tells her that she's needed at the bridge, so Chibaba brings the baby to the MIMA. When the MIMA visits the bridge later, she learns that the telescopes have found a ship heading their way. It's not big enough to be a rescue ship, so they deduce that it's a high-speed probe that could contain fuel. Soon, Chiffon announces that a fuel probe is headed their way, and it will arrive in about a year. He encourages the passengers to celebrate and assures them that they'll soon get back home. A year later, the MIMA's young students begin training to hook the probe and take it into their ship. Passengers and the employees are full of hope that they'll soon get back to their original course and land on Mars. As the probe nears, the ship increases its artificial gravity levels to slow down the approaching object. Before long, the ship's hooks latch onto the probe and bring it inside the ship. After an initial inspection, they don't find any indication that the probe contains fuel. An officer points out that they shouldn't have announced that they found a fuel rod, but Chiffon argues that the information has motivated everyone on the ship. He contends that they should have told the passengers that a fuel rod was coming even before they found it. The scientists note that they still are not ruling out that the object could be a fuel rod, and there's a possibility that the material can be turned radioactive. They assure Chiffon that they will find a solution to make use of the probe. A few days pass, and the scientists continue to examine the probe. Due to the lack of a breakthrough, the astronomer has become skeptical that they can use the object as fuel. Some passengers have also become impatient because the ship still hasn't turned around. Officers are compelled to use their stun guns at unruly passengers to keep the situation from getting worse. Soon, Chiffon visits the team investigating the probe. Since the astronomer found the probe, Chiffon tells her that she'll receive an award for the discovery. However, he's only giving the award to keep her from spreading fear among the passengers. Chiffon tells the other scientists that they need to keep the passengers hopeful, so he instructs them to cooperate with him when he makes another announcement about the probe later. The astronomer doesn't want to comply with his request, so Chiffon grabs an officer's stun gun and shoots her. Although the weapon is not lethal, the astronomer passes away. During the funeral, the MIMA honors her by reciting one of the poems that the astronomer wrote. The poem speaks about the miracle of life on Earth and how humans eventually destroyed the environment. The MIMA and her friends soon turn to drugs to forget that they won't ever get to Mars. While the MIMA dances with Daisy at the club, the flight suddenly becomes turbulent, so the officers immediately tell the passengers to get back to their cabins and fasten their seatbelts. When the MIMA returns to her cabin, Isagel tells her that someone has been crying out to her, but she's calling her by another name. The MIMA deduces that Isagel must be high, so she just tells her that the drug will soon wear off. Later, Chiffon learns that numerous crew members and passengers have perished due to the turbulence. The MIMA soon starts working on the beam screen with her students. She later tells Isagel that she's about to succeed in making the screen work, but Isagel doesn't seem enthusiastic. Soon, the MIMA and her students successfully display an image of a waterfall outside the spaceship. The image immediately captures the attention of some passengers. When the MIMA heads to her cabin to tell Isagel, she finds the door jammed. She forces her way in and discovers that Isagel has taken her own life by hanging herself on the doorknob. After failing to revive her, the MIMA runs to the bathroom. She screams in terror when she discovers that Isagel has also killed her son. On the 10th year of Aniara's departure from Earth, Chiffon awards the MIMA with an honorary medal for her beam screen. The images it projected help the passengers remember their earthly origins. While standing next to Chiffon on stage, the MIMA couldn't help but notice the piece of cloth wrapped around his wrist, indicating that he might have been trying to take his own life. By then, their water supply had become polluted because no one was taking care of the filtration system. On the 24th year, a few remaining survivors sit inside the MIMA hall, begging God to send them light. After 5 million years, the Aniara, now empty and full of dust, reaches the Lyra constellation. Soon, the ship enters the orbit of the constellation's planet that seems similar to Earth.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.